Hello there. Did you know that there are actually two Earths in Battlestar Galactica's universe? And there's a fairly extensive reason for it, but an extensive reason that I thought we can discuss today. There are two, as I said, worlds known as Earth, which the survivors of the massacres of the colonies went in search of. Earth 1 and Earth 2, we can call them for simplicity. Let's start with the backstory of Earth 1. Nice and simple. Earth 1 was the original homeworld, sort of the Cylons, the so-called skin job Cylons, the final five. These Cylons had also left the ancient planet of Kobol after the first known war between mankind and their Cylon creations. After that war had ended, Kobol was left devastated. The humans went one way and founded the 12 colonies. The Cylons went their own way, founded their own colony. They evolved, became the skin jobs we're familiar with. At least we think they evolved post this. They may have actually appeared human before. It's not entirely clear. But they built an entirely human society in which they were capable of biological reproduction. They continued to, or began to build again, Centurions, robot form Cylons. But when the ones who would become known as the final five, that would be Ellen and Saul Tigh, Galen Tyrrell, Tori Foster, and Anders, all saw the writing on the wall that there was going to be war. They spoke out against it, tried to stop it, failed. So they built a special ship and they got a special device. They reinvented a technology known as resurrection. This had been long abandoned by the Cylons of Earth in favor of organic replication. Resurrection was a technology that meant that when you died, your consciousness was transmitted into a new body. So when the war started, they died and they were resurrected aboard their ship. They then travelled relativistically to the 12 colonies to try and warn them, believing that the same thing was going to happen there again. Because all this has happened before and all this will happen again. As we know, there is a lot of fate and predestination involved in Battlestar Galactica. By the time they arrived, unfortunately, the colonies were already at war. They promised the Centurions, the Cylons of the colonies, that if they were to stand down, stop the war, they'd help them build organic Cylons and evolve. So that ended the war. Eventually, Earth 1 was rediscovered as the colonials travelled through space. They followed a few signs and portents and other such things that led them in the general direction, and they eventually found it. But they discovered an irradiated wasteland. But they did find the remains of both human form Cylons, though, which the Cylons were able to determine after breaking down the organic remains that they were not human, despite their appearances, that they were actually synthetic, that they were Cylons, as well as several Centurion bodies or components of Centurion bodies of an unknown design were found on the world. It's believed there was mutual annihilation. Both the organic Cylons and mechanical Cylons completely wiped each other out, and whatever survivors had survived that war had died off in the subsequent years, either through lack of maintenance or lack of food, or possibly the radiation killed them both. This was a very similar fate to Kobol, and although the planet was technically kind of alright, it was in recovery, it hadn't been long enough for the radiation to subside, so it couldn't be recolonized. So let's move on to Earth 2. Earth 2, the planet we know and love, and we now call Earth. Discovered right at the end when Kara Thrace used her gift of sort of the music that was constantly heard by the Cylons, put a code to it and used it as jump coordinates that brought the Galactica to Earth and then the rest of the colonials. They discovered a separately evolved Homo sapien species living on Earth. These civilizations were potentially non-verbal or pre-verbal, as Gaius Baltar would point out, but Doc Coddle determined that they were capable of interbreeding with this species. Genetically, after they discovered that several of them buried their dead, and he studied the bodies, they were biologically human, the same as the colonials. All of them determining that the chances of Homo sapiens, of humans, evolving completely independently on two separate worlds a million light years apart, the chances are astronomical without perhaps the guiding hand of fate or some other cosmic power. This, of course, there's not really much more to say about it. The colonials decided to settle this world, scattering themselves all over the planet, giving some evidence for why different human cultures adopt different architectural styles around the world, as the different colonial cultures settled in different areas and influenced the evolution of people in those respective areas. The Cylons that were with them decided to stay with them, the organic ones who had proven they could replicate with humans, but they probably were more like, it was unlikely, they were more likely to just die off, and they decided to stay to pay penance for what they had done to humanity and to redeem themselves in the eyes of God, as they saw it. And they were going to help humanity survive, as well as help Hera survive, as she was also the future of the Cylon race, as they saw it. The surviving Centurions were completely freed and allowed to go their separate ways, and they took their ship away, believing that now that they were freed and no longer it was any danger of them ever being enslaved, they wouldn't re-evolve to human form and come back in a few hundred years and try and wipe them out. But it was a risk they were willing to take because the Cylons had earned their freedom. Quite rightly so. So they settled, abandoned their technology, didn't build cities, but they taught them language, they taught them religion, and they taught them culture from the colonies. And 150,000 years later, all this has happened before, and all this happening in Skynet. We're going to get Skynet. All this AI, we're going to get Skynet. We're going to get Terminators. And what's a Terminator? It's a Cylon. But those are the two Earths of the Battlestar Galactica universe. Let me know in the comment section about it. Did you know this? Have you seen the 2004, now 20-year-old reimagined Battlestar Galactica series that I cannot believe is that old? That series is now older than when I first watched the original Battlestar Galactica, which was made in the late 70s. And when I was younger and I watched that, and I thought it was like a really old show, I thought, you know, it's not bad for a 70s show. I quite like the story. I'm actually starting to rewatch it at the moment. And that wasn't 20 years old when I first watched it. So, this is so old. But, let me know in the comment section down below if you knew this or remembered it from the show. If you haven't watched Battlestar Galactica, I highly recommend it. It is well worth a watch. It is one of the best thought out science fiction dramas you will ever see. That is a hill I will gladly die on. But if we are now at the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please drop me a like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon if you are enjoying this content. There is also an extensive playlist of Battlestar Galactica content on this channel, as well as many other science fiction shows, as I don't like to limit myself. I like to cover as much as I can. Currently covering some Terminator lore, some Predator lore, some Alien lore, mostly Star Trek. You name it, I love it, I watch it, and I live it. I don't leave the house. I stay in. The sun is no. I stay in the house. So, if you do have any suggestions for other videos you would like seeing as well on any other science fiction franchises, if I know the lore, I'll try and cover it. If you drop me a comment in the section down below and tell me what you'd like to see, I'll try and cover it. Now, after my extra minute-long ramble, if you did actually make it all the way through that, I am going to go now. Bye-bye.